button last night insisted we must draw a line on trolls. As it emerged, a suspect has been arrested for making death threats against him. Officers from two of the country's biggest police forces probed chilling messages sent to the TV star and his eldest son, Spencer. Last night, Piers said that people think it's perfectly okay to make death threats to public figures on social media, but it's not. There has to be a line drawn, especially when family members are targeted. So that's why I reported it, and I'm grateful to the Met Police and Greater Manchester Police for taking it so seriously. The threats apparently caused Piers to have a panic button installed by his bed on police advice. Sinister messages said that he was a marked man and that no security measures could save him, and the troll also added that a promise that Piers was getting killed. His son was told that he would get it if his dad didn't. Well, Yair Cohen is a social media lawyer and joins me live on Talk Radio. Evening to you, Yair. Tell me,
very good evening.
Where is the line between having platforms that can have free speech, robust opinion, people able to argue, people able to offend and insult if they wish to, because, you know, that is a part of free speech, and when does that line get crossed into hate speech, threats, and those sorts of things? Where's the line in managing that?
Well, there are two questions. So the first one is whether the line is drawn, and the second one, who's going to be managing that and who's going to be doing something about it. The answer to the first question, same line as offline. There are no two parallel universe. You know, there's one universe. The offline world is the same as the online world. I think people have just kind of got confused, feeling that there are different rules that apply to the offline world, where everything is kind of regulated and the police can knock on your door because you upset your neighbor and you said something that they didn't like. And then online, you could do whatever you want to whoever you want. And that is not right. And it is also very confusing for a lot of people who think that there are these two parallel universes where one, you can do whatever you want. The other one, you are being heavily regulated.
I mean, but if I were to insult someone face to face, a neighbour, for instance, I may well do so when I get home. You never know. But that would be a public order offence. If I said, look, I think you're I won't use the word, but if I swore at a neighbour, for instance, because I didn't agree with something they did, the way they parked their car or whatever, I could be arrested for that. But not very many people would think about arresting me if I called someone a rude word on Twitter, or would they?
Well, perhaps that's wrong because I just don't. I mean, the internet is a public place. There's a difference if you do something in your own home or if you do something in public. But the question is this: who is in charge? Who is there to knock on your door and say, "Hey, you've done something wrong"? Offline, we have the police. Online, we seem to be saying, well, actually, we're going to delegate the policing of the internet to in fact social media companies, so they become the crime scene, they become the police, they become the judge, they become the jury. So what really, and that's not going to be very popular, I get that, but what we need to do, we need to have government regulation of the internet, and government creates the laws, and government is elected by the people. And then the laws are being enforced on the internet, not by social media companies, but by the government, by the police.
The problem I have with that, though, is, and by the way, I completely draw the line. If you're being, outwardly, and your intent is, I don't know, outright racism or homophobia or, targeted abuse on someone and all those sorts of things, death threats, as we're talking about now, completely agree that there needs to be robust measures in place to stop that happening. My fear, especially in the oversensitive times that we live in, is that I should be able to be robust. I should be able to insult someone's opinion on social media if I wish to. It might not be kind, it might not be very nice, it might offend someone, but free speech is the right to do that as long as it doesn't cross the line we've discussed. Isn't there a chance that people's right to do that could be infringed upon if we start bringing in stricter measures for the more sinister stuff that we've just discussed?
Well, we live in a time where you have a young lady who's people take offense because she declared for the first time that there are only 24 hours in a day and we all have the same time available to all of us.
Exactly.
And people take offense of that. But I tell you where I cannot disagree with you a little bit here, Cristo, as well. If you leave those decisions to Google, to Facebook, to regulate speech online, they are not accountable to anyone. They are not transparent. At least government is transparent, or at least is meant to be. You can influence government's decision. I much rather there will be a transparent policy and the government will say, if you say that there are 24 hours in a day and we all have the same time available to us during a course of 24 hours, that's not going to be offensive. But if you attack someone on the basis of their race or their whatever might be unlawful or sexual orientation or preferences, that would be unlawful. At least we know where we stand. I'm much more worried about social media companies regulating us than our own government and police doing that.
Finally, would all of this be solved so much more easily if there was a mandatory if it became mandatory that we had to produce ID and only tweet under our own names on social media?
Let's find a middle ground here, and we'll say yes. You could use whatever ID you want to use on your Twitter account, but if you do cause offense to someone, that victim they don't need to come to me and pay me a lot of money as a lawyer to get some identity. They don't need to be Piers Morgan in order to find someone's ID. They should be able to produce a little bit of evidence to social media company and say, look, tell me please who this person is, and then they can take it up with that individual. Just make it easier for people to unravel the identity of those who abuse them. I promise you that will reduce online abuse by 85 to 90%.
All right, really interesting to talk to you, really interesting moral dilemmas around this. Yair Cohen, social media lawyer here on Talk Radio. Where do you stand on that? I mean, obviously death threats completely unacceptable and obviously illegal, but we do need to try and